Good morning, afternoon, and or evening, fellow gamers. Today, I'll be continuing my series on creating cool designs for companions. But before we get into the video, roll the intro! Yeah, I suck at segueing, so let me just get straight into the video. And our first companion I want to talk about is going to be my least favorite companion of the video, but it's still a good design, and that would be the regenerating taunt tank, who's gonna be a Lagoonie. The stats of this companion would be a health of 3,219, an attack of 210, magic resistance of 0, defense of 58, dodge of 87, accuracy of 123, and a movement stat of 4. Basically, his stats are health. I mean, he has about 500 more health than the highest amount of health for a companion, but his attack is much worse than Privateer, and has a dodge worse than Witch. His stats basically show that he's a wall, and the next thing I want to talk about are his epics, and he starts with the epic that I rarely ever see being used, being Second Chance, since the Lagoonies start with him. Plus, he has Tied 1, and a choice of 5 epics since he has no promotion. The epics he can learn are Second Chance 3, Blade Storm 3, Relentless 3, V-Strike 2, Flankings 2, and Cheap Shot 2. So he has a pretty good epic pool, besides Flanking and Cheap Shot, but it doesn't really matter since he can only choose up to 5 epics, and I'd give him Second Chance 1, Blade Storm 2, and Relentless 2 for chaining purposes. His epics suck, but just like every other companion I created, his powers are his specialty, and he would have 3 powers I created being Enrage, Regenerate, and Rage scales. Enrage makes all the opponents target the Lagoonie for 5 turns, and the epics and powers that hit multiple people can break through this. So you can Blade Storm onto other opponents, use reactionary epics like V-Strike, Riposte, etc, etc, etc. Basically, if an epic can hit an opponent, it will. Or you can use a move like Big Guns or Gambit of Steel to hit others too. Regenerate, shockingly enough, regenerates 5% of the user's health every turn for 10 turns, and Enrage increases the user's rage by 50% for 10 turns. Overall, this companion's powers can be obnoxious to deal with, being that you can have a bunch of musketeers chain the opponents when they can't do anything to harm them, unless they have reactionary epics that work on musketeers. But if they did that, that would allow the Lagoonie or any companion with chaining epics to chain them, since they're not focusing them, meaning that if the opponent is also a musketeer, they're also gonna have a bad time dealing with them. Though he seems great, he has a big counter, and that would be a bunch of swashbucklers with Riposte 3. This is because they would be capable of taking down the Lagoonie quickly, while he is increasing their dodge by missing and causing them to get a dodge boost and an extra hit. And he'll boost their dodge a lot since he has Second Chance, meaning that they're gonna get another dodge boost and an attack if they dodge twice, which is likely the case. So in a nutshell, he's a bit situational, and that's all for the first companion, but now it's time for the next one, being one that has the same abilities as a creature in Aquila. And that is the ability to lock an opponent from moving, being used by some Ophidian archers in Troy, and that's the companion. She would have the HP of 2,411, weapon power of 232, magic resistance of 30, defense of 10, dodge of 87, accuracy of 143, movement stat of 4, and a range of 5 or 6, depending on her promotion, since Ophidian archers have a promotion. Her stats are nearly the same as an average musketeer, which is something I rarely do, but it's now time to talk about the topic of epics, and she can have up to 6, and starts with the terrible epic Parting Shot. Yup, another companion that starts with a bad epic, and her epic pool is just as bad, and it consists of Parting Shot 3, Double Tap 3, Return Fire 3, Overwatch 3, and Crossfire 2. Honestly, the Ophidian has an absolutely terrible epic pool, but it can make do if you give her Parting Shot 1, Double Tap 2, and Overwatch 3, which are chosen since she has no other good epics. Anyways, it's time to talk about her powers, which are her specialty, and she has the new powers Pinning Shot pre-promo, and she has Pinning Shot and Locking Shot in her promoted form. Pinning Shot disables an opponent's capability of moving for 3 turns, while Locking Shot disables their movement for 5 turns, and this can be absolutely toxic and terrible for melee companions. She would be capable of destroying melee opponents if there are other musketeers on the team to attack the melee opponent when they're locked, since she can barely do any damage, but this can easily be countered by a musketeer where it would basically do nothing to them. That's all I wanted to talk about for this companion, and the next would be my favorite of the 5, being a stat swapper, and that would be a Tangu. The stat swapper would have the health stat of 1997, the attack stat of 320, the resistance of 55, no armor, dodge of 84, movement stat of 4, and a range of 5.
Hey, editor's note here. Yeah, I completely forgot to mention how he has an accuracy of 100, and this sounds different because it's on a different mic. So sorry about that, and now it's time to get back to the video.
His stats show that he has pathetic stats for a witch, except for the insane attack stat of 320 and the very high accuracy of 100. And yes, the accuracy of 100 is incredibly high for a witch doctor. It's shockingly low for some reason. Next thing I want to talk about is his epic pool, where he can have up to 5 epics, and he starts with the really good Epic Mojo Echo. The epic pool he can choose from consists of Mojo Echo 3, Improved Mojo Blast 3, Coward's Bane 3, Mojo Rising 2, and Ready to Spell 2, which is an amazing epic pool. Now, since he has so little epics to use, I'd give him Mojo Echo 2, Mojo Rising 2, and Ready to Spell to chain opponents and get an extra chance to chain approachers. But his epics are not his specialty. It's his powers, and he consists of new stat-swapping powers, known as Lost Target, Magical Aura, Nullifying Spell, and Pure Destruction. Lost Target has all the player's accuracy and dodge stats swapped, including the stat boosts, until the power ends in 5 turns. Magical Aura does the exact same thing as Lost Target, except swaps Spooky Stat and Attack Stat, so this can be a Nightmare with Scratch boosts on for 5 turns, but the Power Nullifying Spell can reset this, since it resets all stats boosts at play. Nullifying Spell works just like Purge Magic, but it removes both buffs and debuffs, and has infinite range, so everyone gets their stat changes cancelled, which could come in handy against a Privateer or a Witch Doctor. And the last power he has is Pure Destruction, which would remove 25% of each player's maximum health on the field, which isn't really that good of a power. But it's there for situational purposes, and also because Tangu are crazy and destructive, so this would perfectly fit their personality. Yeah, his powers are clearly overpowered, but he has a clear weakness, being that any companion who can take him out before he can use any of his powers would be a clear counter to him. Now, all the companions I created have a simple gimmick that can be added into the game right now, but this companion is a companion I thought of which doesn't have a super clear concept, but still can be fun, but would require extra effort to be put into him. He'd be a mix of a stage hazard, ranged, and melee companion, being the Yatin, and he would have the health stat of 2578, an attack stat of 230, the resistance of 0, an armor of 32, a dodge of 103, an accuracy of 134, and a movement stat and range of 4. He pretty much has the same stats as a Privateer, but decreased dodge and an increased accuracy, and that's pretty much it for his stats. And now it's time to talk about his epics. The Etin would start with no fling, and would also start with cheap shots since that's what they naturally have, and can have up to 6 epics, and tied 1 or 2 because he has a promotion. His epic pool consists of Cheap Shot 3, Blade Storm 3, Vengeance Strike 2, Relentless 2, and Repel Borders 2, and you'd be right to assume that I give him Cheap Shot 1, Blade Storm 3, and Relentless 2 to allow him to chain. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are his powers, which are, shockingly enough, his specialty. He would have Epic Strike and a new move known as Trash Bomb, and when he gets a promotion, he would have Mega Strike and 2 new moves being Rubble Bomb and Mud Bomb. Trash Bomb is a move that has the Nothing Throw a Giant Boulder that works exactly like Artillery, and would also deal the same amount of damage as it, and has a 10% chance to have an obstacle appear on every movement spot that has 10% of the Etin's health. So basically there's a chance that this move will have no obstacle appear, but there is also a chance that every movement tile would have an obstacle appear, and that would be incredibly troublesome. Now, Rubble Bomb does the exact same thing as Trash Bomb, except there is a 25% chance for an obstacle to appear, and it has 15% of the Etin's health. The last of the new powers is Mud Bomb, which again works just like Artillery, but it lowers the accuracy of the opponents by 10% for 5 turns. And you're probably thinking that this companion can be obnoxious, and that's true. Also, his powers would make him the first companion that I made that can't be immediately put into game, since his powers would require a new animation. Well, technically, the Chain Companion's Chain Spin would not be able to be made from existing animations and sprites, but I don't want to go too far in this rabbit hole, and I just realized that there aren't any rabbit enemies or companions in Pirate. Never mind, I'm going a bit off topic, and now I believe it's time to talk about his counter, which would be a ranged companion, since the obstacles wouldn't be too annoying for them, and that's all for him now, and now it's time for the next companion. This companion has an unused concept, and that concept would be a companion detrapping all movement tiles, and the model that would perfectly fit this would be a dog officer. The dog officer would have a health stat of 2,691, an attack stat of 227, resistance of 33, armor of 13, a dodge of 99, an accuracy of 138, and a movement stat and range of 4. His stats are a mix between a privy and a musketeer, which perfectly matches his look, and I don't have anything more to say about his stats, so I'll move on to his epics, and he starts with the terrible epic of Return Fire, and it's bad since he has a tiny dodge stat. But his epic pull is still great since he can have Return Fire 3, Burst Fire 3, Double Tap 3, Overwatch 2, and Crossfire 2, and he only can have up to 5 epics since he has no promotion. His best setup would be Return Fire 1, Burst Fire 2, and Double Tap 2 for chaining purposes, and I really don't have anything else to talk about his epics, so I'm gonna move on to his powers, which is his specialty. How shocking. The only power he'd have would be a power known as Whirlwind, and it would have a 5x5 Whirlwind appear and drag all opponents and obstacles into the Whirlwind center, and remove all traps on the field. Now, you're probably thinking this is going to be incredibly technical, and that's true. So if you don't want to hear the specifics, I'd recommend for you to hit the right side of the screen a couple times, but otherwise, prepare for a boatload of information. First off, the priority of who moves into the middle is random. So if two people are equal distance from the center of the whirlwind, it's random who gets into the center. But if the opponent is closer to the circle than the other, the closer person will have priority and get into the sector. And if there's a row of opponents, they would be dragged in the order they were ordered and will not have anything done to them. Now it's time to talk about the obstacles that would be pulled, and it works just like the chain text for the Bulldog Jailer I created in my last video. But if you haven't watched it, the same health of the obstacles will be dealt to the opponent. And I believe that's all for the whirlwind power. And now it's time to talk about the counter, and that would be a swashbuckler, since they have a high chance of critting them and can do a lot of damage to them and have a movement stat that can get them out of the whirlwind. I believe they'd be a good counter. That's pretty much all, and there are 5 companions left for me to talk about, so the series will end soon, but hopefully this series and this video made you, the viewer, happy. And also, roll the outro!